Drive past a Florida R-Vee dealership right now, and something feels off.
Higher inflation and fuel costs have hit RV sales really hard.
A local dealer says expensive gas prices have cut his motorized RV sales in half.
The rows are deeper, the same units keep sitting, and price tags keep quietly changing. Dealers will tell you this is normal, that buyers are just waiting, but that's not what the numbers say. This started with pandemic pricing, then came over-ordering, then came easy credit hiding the risk. Now the market is forcing a reset, and resets don't happen evenly. They create winners and overpayers. If you're shopping, the difference comes down to timing and information, and the first signal you should be watching is the one most buyers completely miss. Florida dealers blaming interest rates. Florida motorhomes dealers want you to believe rising interest rates are the reason they are struggling. That story sounds neat. Rates climbed, payments rose, buyers stepped back. Case closed. Except it is not that simple, and they know it. Rates increased nationwide. Yet Florida is feeling the squeeze harder than many other warm weather markets. If this were purely about borrowing costs, the pain would be uniform. It is not. The difference is behavioral. During the boom years, many Florida stores pushed pricing further and faster than comparable regions. That decision created a fragile base. Look at what happened between 2021 and 2023. Average selling prices jumped dramatically, while dealers layered mandatory prep, delivery, and protection fees on top. Buyers were told inventory would disappear by the weekend. Some paid tens of thousands above prior year norms. When rates later rose, those inflated starting points amplified the shock. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The slowdown is not punishment from the economy. It is the delayed consequence of aggressive pricing during a frenzy. Florida dealers did not just ride the wave, they squeezed it. And once squeezed margins collide with higher borrowing costs, weakness shows fast. That weakness traces directly back to how they handled the spike. The pandemic markup machine. When travel shut down, motorhomes became the substitute for vacations. Florida dealers saw lines of buyers and responded by raising prices immediately. Listings from 2021 displayed market adjustments that had not existed before. Add-on packages were bundled without flexibility. Freight and inspection fees appeared as non-negotiable line items. Scarcity messaging became routine. Customers were told units were sold before they even arrived. Some buyers paid well above previous sticker levels simply to secure a unit. Florida's year-round climate and tourist inflow encouraged the idea that demand would stay elevated. Instead of building loyalty, many stores maximized short-term margin. Those inflated transactions set a new baseline. A coach that once retailed around $90,000 suddenly carried a price well into six figures. Depreciation does not care why the price rose. It calculates from what was paid. As market conditions normalized, that artificial layer began peeling away. This is where getting what they deserved becomes less emotional and more mathematical. When you push prices beyond sustainable levels, you increase the eventual correction. Florida dealers benefited heavily during the surge. Now the same numbers that boosted revenue are accelerating the drop, and pricing alone was not their only vulnerability. If this breakdown is helping you see the numbers more clearly, take a second to like the video, subscribe for ongoing updates, and share your experience below. Financing as the hidden engine. Florida motorhomes dealers relied heavily on financing revenue during the boom. Loan terms stretched to 15 and even 20 years to keep payments appearing manageable. Back-end products added thousands to final contracts. Service plans, gap protection, and accessory bundles increased per-deal profit beyond the advertised price. As long as lenders approved broadly, that engine ran smoothly. Volume covered risk. However, when underwriting tightened in late 2023, approvals slowed. Higher credit thresholds and larger down payment requirements filtered into sales offices. Deals that would have cleared easily 2 years earlier began stalling. That shift exposed dependence. Many Florida stores were not just selling units. They were structuring long-term financial packages that required easy credit to function. When lenders recalibrated risk, back-end revenue thinned quickly. A thinner margin on each transaction magnified the impact of slower foot traffic. Easy money disguised structural weakness for several seasons. Once lenders demanded stronger qualifications, the illusion faded. Financing volume dropped. and the gap between asking prices and realistic approvals widened. Here is the direct consequence. When financing tightens, dealers must either reduce pricing or accept declining volume. Some resisted reductions at first, hoping demand would rebound. It did not. Financing dependency turned from advantage into constraint. That constraint feeds directly into the pressure building across their lots. Inventory pressure becomes public. Drive past large Florida motorhomes dealerships, and you see it immediately. Rows stretch deeper than they did before. Units remain parked longer. Inventory ordered during peak demand continues arriving into a cooler market. Production momentum from earlier orders created a backlog that cannot be reversed overnight. Most of those units are financed through floor plan credit lines. Each month, they sit unsold. Interest accrues. Carrying costs increase even if showroom traffic slows. The larger the lot, the larger the obligation. High overhead facilities that once signaled strength now represent fixed expense. When aging inventory crosses 90 days, urgency rises. Price tags change. Promotional banners appear. Discounts expand from modest adjustments to substantial reductions. Yet lower prices do not erase inflated purchase histories from previous buyers. They simply move current stock at thinner margins. Stacked inventory is no longer hidden in backlots. It is visible from the highway. Visibility changes perception. Perception accelerates buyer hesitation, which further extends the time units remain unsold. This is where consequence meets visibility. Florida dealers pushed pricing aggressively during the surge. They expanded inventory, expecting perpetual demand. Now, inventory sits, interest compounds, and margin compresses. What looks like a market slowdown is, in reality, the bill coming due for choices made at the peak. And that bill is still unfolding. Inventory overshoot. When demand exploded, dealers ordered as if it would never slow. Factory shipment reports between 2021 and 2023 show sustained production levels long after the first surge cooled. Orders were placed months in advance based on peak traffic, not forward risk. That decision is visible today in plain sight. Drive past large Florida lots and count the rows. Inventory did not contract when demand softened. Production increases during the boom created a pipeline effect. Units ordered in early 2022 arrived through late 2023, even as retail interest faded. Satellite images and lot walkthrough videos show saturation. Stacked towables, high-end motor coaches parked deep in overflow areas, clearance tags taped inside windshields. Overshoot is not a rumor. It is measurable. Inventory ordered during peak confidence is arriving into a different climate. What looked like foresight now resembles overreach. Oversupply does not correct quietly. It pushes pricing decisions into uncomfortable territory. Here's the financial reality. When inventory exceeds realistic turnover, pricing shifts from strategy to survival. Dealers begin trimming $5,000, $10,000, even $15,000 just to move aging units. Yet, a lower sticker does not restore original purchase values for buyers who paid peak pricing. Discounting clears space, but it does not repair balance sheets. Depreciation remains. That imbalance becomes even clearer when units reach wholesale channels. Auction values sliding. Wholesale auctions tell the story before retail ads admit it. Recent auction summaries show late-model motorhomes selling below previous guide estimates. When identical units that retailed at $120,000 trade at wholesale closer to $85,000, the gap is not cosmetic. It signals a correction already underway. Year-over-year valuation reports reflect steady downward pressure across several classes. Travel trailers and entry-level coaches soften first. Higher-end diesel pushers follow when financing tightens. Auction platforms display increased no-sale rates, meaning reserve prices are not being met. Sellers accept lower bids because carrying costs outweigh waiting for ideal offers. Wholesale softness does not remain confined to auction lanes. It echoes into retail showrooms within weeks. Dealers watching lower hammer prices adjust trade values quickly to protect shrinking margins. The consequence lands directly on trade-ins. When wholesale benchmarks fall, dealer trade values follow. Owners expecting strong equity discover shortfalls instead. A buyer who financed heavily at peak pricing may now owe more than current market value. That shortfall must be covered in cash or rolled into a new loan. Negative equity spreads quietly, unit by unit. Once that spread widens, retail activity slows further, revealing another layer of strain dealers cannot easily hide: the reputation lag. Price corrections do not immediately restore trust. Online review platforms show patterns forming over several years. Complaint volumes rise during high-pressure sales cycles, then remain searchable long after promotions fade. Aggregated feedback reveals consistent themes: add-on disputes, delayed service appointments, and unexpected fees. Digital records do not disappear when inventory discounts begin. Reputation operates on a delay. Customers read reviews before stepping onto a lot. When ratings dip below certain thresholds, foot traffic slows even if prices appear competitive. Data from traffic analytics firms indicate that search behavior shifts toward comparison shopping and private sellers during periods of public dissatisfaction. The effect compounds gradually. Online memory lasts longer than promotional banners. Reviews accumulate quietly, shaping future traffic patterns. Even aggressive discounts struggle when trust erosion has already influenced buyer perception. Reduced traffic creates a second-order problem. Lower showroom visits mean fewer financing applications and less service scheduling. Dealers respond with advertising pushes and clearance banners, but awareness does not equal trust. The lag between reputation damage and visible financial impact can stretch months. By the time empty showrooms become obvious, the structural weakness has already deepened. That exposure connects directly to the fixed costs embedded in every large facility across the state. Fixed overhead trap. Large dealerships carry large commitments. Prime highway frontage in major Florida corridors commands substantial lease or mortgage payments. Commercial real estate reports list monthly lease rates per square foot that translate into significant annual obligations for showrooms spanning tens of thousands of square feet. Property taxes add another layer, rising with assessed values. Utilities, staffing, and maintenance scale with building size, not sales volume. Air-conditioned showrooms, expansive service bays, and illuminated signage operate whether 10 units sell or 100. When sales contract, overhead does not shrink proportionally. Cost structures built for boom years become rigid during downturns. Large facilities once projected dominance. In a slower market, those same properties amplify fixed costs. Every square foot becomes a reminder that expansion during prosperity carries weight during contraction. Here lies the final constraint. Dealers cannot easily reduce footprint without selling property or terminating long-term agreements. If inventory turnover slows while carrying costs rise, liquidation becomes a rational calculation. Some owners evaluate whether the land itself holds more value than the retail operation. When that thought enters the conversation, discount campaigns are no longer marketing events. They are signals of structural pressure reaching its limit. Credit pullback. The tightening did not start on the lot. It began inside lending departments. Risk models were recalibrated as default rates ticked higher on large recreational loans. Data summaries from lending analysts in late 2023 showed approval rates narrowing, especially for longer-term motorhome financing. Credit score minimums crept upward. Required down payments increased. Promotional zero-down campaigns quietly faded. Subprime exposure shrank first. Applications that would have cleared easily during the surge suddenly stalled. Loan-to-value ratios were reviewed more strictly. When wholesale values soften and depreciation accelerates, lenders protect themselves. That protection translates into fewer approvals. A sales floor can present incentives all day, but without financing clearance, deals stop. Approval tightening rarely makes headlines, yet it transforms outcomes. When lenders hesitate, dealerships cannot substitute optimism for authorization. Fewer approved contracts translate into fewer completed transactions. Fewer financed buyers alter the entire negotiation environment. When approval pools contract, dealers cannot rely on volume to compensate for thinner margins. Cash buyers gain relative strength. Well-qualified borrowers face less competition from marginal applicants. Leverage shifts subtly toward the prepared customer. That shift feeds directly into pricing behavior once hesitation becomes visible across the market. If you want continued updates on pricing shifts, lender tightening, and the next inventory moves before they hit headlines, subscribe now. The next 30 days will reveal who adjusts and who folds. And you'll want to see it early. The pricing psychology break. Market corrections are not only mechanical, they are psychological. When shoppers see price reductions listed week after week, they hesitate. Data from listing platforms show rising days-on market averages across several motorhome classes. Units that once moved in 30 to 45 days begin lingering past 90. Each additional week signals softness. Price history tools reveal repeated adjustments. A coach posted at $115,000 drops to $108, then $102, then slips under six figures. Buyers learn to wait. Sellers respond by trimming again. That feedback loop reinforces caution. The longer a unit sits, the more buyers expect further concessions. Extended listing durations change buyer psychology. When a motorhome remains visible month after month, urgency fades. Patience increases and offers trend downward as expectations recalibrate. Dealers are not immune to that pressure. Sales managers monitor competing listings and react. When one store lowers a comparable model, nearby dealers follow to avoid appearing overpriced. The market chases itself downward in increments. Yet the slide is uneven. Entry-level towables behave differently from luxury diesel coaches. Understanding that split matters, because stability in certain segments creates a selective window rather than a universal collapse. Survivors versus sinkers. Not all motorhomes absorb shocks equally. Towables priced under $60,000 show comparatively steadier movement. Their buyer pool is broader. Financing amounts are smaller. Insurance and storage costs remain manageable. Service expenses are typically lower than those of complex motor coaches. That combination cushions demand. High-end units face a narrower audience. Six-figure price tags require stronger credit and larger down payments. Maintenance costs escalate with size and complexity. When economic uncertainty rises, discretionary luxury purchases pause first. Auction results reflect sharper percentage declines in premium categories compared with modest trailers. Segment differences create contrast on the lot. Practical towables attract steady interest, while premium motor coaches linger. The market does not collapse uniformly. It rebalances unevenly. This divergence reshapes inventory strategy. Dealers holding balanced portfolios can lean on resilient segments to maintain cash flow. Stores heavily concentrated in upper-tier models feel deeper strain. For a disciplined shopper, differentiation creates clarity. Watching which categories stabilize versus which continue sliding reveals where negotiating power concentrates. Stability does not eliminate discounts, but it defines where realistic concessions sit. Those patterns tie directly into seasonal timing across Florida's buying calendar. Timing, window logic. Seasonality plays a measurable role in motorhome pricing. Florida experiences peaks tied to travel cycles and weather patterns. Late winter and early spring often attract northern visitors, exploring purchases. As summer approaches and heat intensifies, showroom traffic typically cools. Historical sales charts illustrate softer months following peak tourist periods. Model year transitions add another layer. When new production cycles are announced, dealers seek to clear prior year inventory. Discounts deepen on aging units to make room for incoming stock. Combining seasonal slowdowns with model year pressure compresses margins temporarily. That compression can last 30 to 60 days before stabilizing. Seasonal lulls magnify hesitation already present. Heat and travel shifts thin showroom traffic. Dealers feel quieter, weeks more acutely, when inventory already exceeds comfortable thresholds. The leverage window is narrow. Entering negotiations during inventory buildup and lower foot traffic increases flexibility. Waiting too long risks encountering reduced selection or modest price rebounds in resilient segments. Preparation matters. Verify wholesale comparisons, monitor listing histories, and be ready to walk if numbers do not align. Timing alone does not guarantee advantage. Strategy turns timing into leverage, provided it is executed with discipline. What dealers won't admit. Profit margins today do not resemble those from the surge years. During 2021, back-end products and rapid turnover created unusually strong earnings per unit. Service contracts, protection packages, and financing reserves added layers of income beyond the base sale. That cushion allowed dealers to absorb small pricing shifts without visible strain. Recent internal summaries and lender commentary indicate thinner spreads. As financing approvals tightened and discounting increased, per-unit back-end profit declined compared to those peak years. Add-on attachment rates softened when buyers pushed back or qualified under stricter guidelines. The arithmetic is straightforward. Lower margins across dozens of units reduce overall revenue even before accounting for higher carrying costs. Compressed margins alter internal conversations. Managers discuss volume targets more urgently. Quiet recalculations happen behind office doors, and flexibility grows where once it was limited. When margin compression settles in, pressure migrates to the showroom. Sales managers demand movement. Incentives grow more aggressive behind closed doors. Commission structures feel the strain, and urgency rises. Those internal dynamics do not appear on window stickers, yet they create subtle openings. When revenue per deal shrinks, flexibility expands in places rarely advertised. That internal tension forms the first visible crack for disciplined negotiators to observe. Where the next drop comes from. Pricing adjustments rarely happen at random. They often align with aging inventory thresholds. Units sitting beyond 90 days begin accumulating noticeable floor plan expense. Each additional month adds interest and erodes potential profit. Inventory management systems flag these aging assets for attention, particularly when newer shipments approach. Dealer lot scans across Florida reveal clusters of units tagged with revised pricing after extended exposure. Listing histories show reductions following prolonged stagnation. The pattern is consistent. The longer a motorhome remains unsold, the more likely it is to receive incremental cuts. Those cuts may begin modestly, yet they accelerate when carrying costs outweigh expected margins. Aging units develop reputations within dealership systems. The longer they sit, the more attention they receive from management. That attention often precedes measurable pricing adjustment. Monitoring days on lot becomes a practical tool. Public listings frequently display posting dates or revision histories. When a unit crosses key time thresholds, internal pressure intensifies. That is when negotiations gain traction. Observing these signals requires patience and record keeping, but the effort pays dividends. Price tags do not tell the whole story. Their duration on display often reveals more than the number itself. Strategic buying position. Negotiation strength grows from preparation, not emotion. Wholesale to retail spreads provide a reference point. When auction values trail retail listings by meaningful margins, room exists. Reviewing recent wholesale comparables establishes an anchor before entering discussion. Anchoring with documented numbers reframes conversation away from monthly payment distraction. Offer structure matters. Presenting a firm proposal grounded in comparable sales communicates seriousness. Emphasizing readiness to transact immediately reduces dealer uncertainty. At the same time, maintaining willingness to walk preserves leverage. Dealers facing aging inventory and compressed margins weigh certainty heavily. A clean offer today can outweigh the hope of a slightly higher sale weeks later. Prepared buyers notice patterns others miss. Tracking wholesale gaps and listing histories sharpens confidence. Confidence strengthens negotiating posture when discussions turn serious. Timing, documentation, and restraint combine to form advantage. Avoid rushing due to promotional banners or short-lived incentives. Focus instead on verifiable data, listing duration, comparable wholesale values, and visible price history. When those elements align, assertive negotiation becomes rational rather than speculative. Walking away remains the strongest position because it confirms discipline. That discipline rests on a broader market principle extending beyond motorhomes alone. The correction principle. Markets correct excess without emotion. When pricing outruns sustainable demand, adjustment follows. The boat industry in 2008 demonstrated similar patterns. Rapid expansion during credit-friendly years led to oversupply once financing tightened. Dealers discounted aggressively, inventories cleared at reduced values, and the cycle reset. Powersports sectors experienced comparable pullbacks during prior economic slowdowns. High discretionary purchases respond quickly to credit contraction and consumer caution. The pattern repeats: expansion, overshoot, compression, stabilization. It is not vengeance or moral reckoning. It is mathematics interacting with human behavior. Corrections unfold in phases, not headlines. First comes denial, then discounting, then consolidation. Recognizing the phase helps interpret what is unfolding without relying on speculation. Understanding that pattern removes surprise. When inventory builds, financing narrows, and depreciation accelerates, correction becomes inevitable. Dealers that adapt survive. Those that cling to prior margins struggle. Observing which path unfolds requires attention over the coming weeks. The next 30 days will show who adjust their numbers to reality and who cannot sustain the weight of excess inventory. If you're watching this market right now, remember timing and information beat emotion every single time. The pressure you're seeing on these lots didn't happen overnight. It won't disappear overnight either. The advantage goes to buyers who stay patient, track the numbers, and move when the leverage is real. If this breakdown helped you see the market more clearly, hit like so more buyers can find it. Subscribe for upcoming updates and share your experience in the comments.